Hello, my name is Eric Kagler, and I was born in Guatemala City. In Guatemala City, I started racing. I started with motorcycles, and back in my country, what was popular at that time was motocross. So did a little bit of that, and that's how I got motivated into motorsports. Then later, after when I was 12 years old, I came to this country, into the United States, and so went to school. And after I got out of high school, I started. I met Nick Tierno, which he had a race car shop in Glendale, and I found that he did a lot of racing cars, and at the same time he did a lot of motorcycle racing, and he encouraged me to keep on racing motorcycles at this time. And so we did a lot of racing with him. We started a lot of mini bike racing, and then we also jumped into big bikes, and we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of racing. We won a lot of races, and we did at that time the two-stroke motorcycles were popular. So we had a lot of two-stroke motorcycles, like 80 cc's, 50 cc's, 125 cc's, and the 250 cc's were very popular. So we did a lot of that racing, and then he also did a lot of he did modified a lot of the race cars and at his shop. So that motivated me to go back into I wanted to try cars, and so at that time the Hondas were very popular, and that's how I started racing Hondas. And the Hondas were like a passion for me and a lot of people, because that technology that came at that time in Hondas were very amazing. The engines were very efficient, and they had a lot of power, and they were very challenging to make more power out of them, because they're very high technology engines. And so we started working on that, and then at that time going to the track and going to the quarter-mile track, running a 13-second pass was very impressive. So and working with those Honda engines, that became possible. And so we started a challenge, who could run first to run into the 12-second zone, and then who could do the 11 seconds, and then it was really, the class that we ran was an all motor, which had no power adders. Like, we couldn't have no turbo, no nitrous, or nothing that could make extra power, but just by itself. So it was challenging to make that engine make more power, and we had to do everything ourselves. We had to modify the pistons, the cylinder head, and the exhaust, and the camshafts, everything. And we had to think of something to make the engine better. But at the same time, it was very hard, because we were we were starting with an engine that was very high technology at that time. So it was really challenging to make more power. And so that's how we started our career, and building engines and building race cars and going racing. At first, I helped a lot of people trying to achieve going fast and going run a 12-second and a quarter mile with no power adders, and it was fun, and it was very challenging at the same time. So So later, I decided, I should do it myself, because, I gotta do a development of parts and engineer of the car and engineer of the engine. So that's how I started building my own race car. And so I built my own race car, which was a Honda Civic Coupe, and that was a naturally aspirated engine, which was a dual overhead cam VTEC motor that came out of a Integra GSR, and 1.8 liters. And that engine only produced at about 150 horsepower. And then we were able to later, with all the modifications that we did and everything, we were able to do right around a little over 300 horsepower with that. And that took us into totally different bracket into racing. And we started racing in with an association that was called NOPI Series. And that was really fun, because we got to race everywhere. Like, we started here in California, and then we went to Phoenix, and then Texas, and to the East Coast, and New Jersey, and everywhere. So we were traveling a lot, and then we were at the same time developing the engine and trying to go faster and break records. And that's how we had a race, like who was the first one. At this time, we already had broken into the 10 seconds and a quarter mile in a natural aspirated car. So that was really good, and that was really fast back on that time, because that was on the early 2000s. So having a car that had nothing like nitrous or turbos, run a 10-second and a quarter mile was very, very, very fast. So that was very challenging, and it was a lot of fun, because it was nothing out there that we could go, oh, we just gotta go buy this and put this on, and oh yeah, these headers make a lot of power, we should just go buy those. No, it was something that we had to get some tubes and like make a header. Okay, we have to design a header. We go to the shop and design a header, make a header, and also, inside the engine, okay, well, how we make more power? Okay, let's put more compression. But there was nothing out there that we could go buy. So then we started talking to companies to see who could make us a piston, right? And that's how we met all these great people, like Barry from Trump Piston, that he was one of the first guys that that started, that we were able to talk to, because it was really hard for us to go to a company and say, can you make us a piston? And they look at us and they're like, what this guy's talking about, for a Honda, they're crazy. So, because back at that time, the muscle cars, American cars were the cars that, you used to see at the track. But you see a Honda and they're like, what is this car doing at the track, right? But the thing is that now we were running faster than all these big muscle cars. But then a lot of people started putting attention to what we were doing, and we started getting some help. And like Barry started doing us the pistons for the engines that we were building, and so he was designing the pistons for us, making more compression and making them stronger. And then these engines back in the day, we were ramming these engines over 10,000 RPMs, and so the springs and valve train and all that had to be all modified, because we were taking these engines, way higher than what they should run at. And so we had to, make everything and design everything, and it was a lot of fun. So it was really nice, because you get to think a lot and design a lot and think on how were you gonna be able to achieve the power you wanted to get. And so at this time we were at a pace where we wanted to break a barrier, which was the 9-second barrier. And at this time now we had in the racing, you know, the Mazda got involved, GM got involved, you know, all the companies got involved into it because they saw that, you know, how fast we were growing in the sport, which was the sport compact cars, they used to call them. And, you know, small engines, but, you know, very efficient. And we started going, you know, pretty fast. And so we had a race who could break the barrier of running in 9 seconds, a single digit, in a natural aspirated car. And that was the concentration we had towards, you know, the racing. So I was just a privateer, you know. I had little help. You know, still had, you know, a lot of support from, you know, motorcycle racing. I did a lot of motorcycle racing with Nick, and at that time, the first of the sponsors that we had at that time was Motul. And until this day, Motul is still one of my biggest sponsors because they saw how we were growing, and you know, we got sponsored by them, which I appreciate a lot, because if it wasn't for them, you know, we wouldn't be here today. And so we had this race to break into the 9-second barrier, and I did everything I could, and thankfully, and with all the effort and all the help from the sponsors, we were able to break. I was the first one to break into the 9-second barrier first in a naturally aspirated Honda car. And that was one of my biggest achievements ever in my life, because it was such a big news in the world, because not just here but in the world, because all the eyes were in us, and they saw all the teams trying to do the same thing, and we were the first ones who were able to do it. And thanks to the people around us that were helping us, you know, at that time, which was Motul, and at that time was Arias, and Toda Racing, which is a Japanese company that was developing the camshafts for us, and valve train and everything. And then we got Super Tech. He did all the also the valve trains, the springs, everything. And Crowder was also one of the biggest companies that did a lot of the parts for us, which crankshafts, the rods, and everything. So little by little, we started, you know, having all these big companies putting a lot of help, you know, into us, and developing parts for everybody around the world now. Because like now it's so easy to build a car, because now you can just go and say, yeah, I want a car that could run, you know, 8 seconds, and I want to build a Honda run 8 seconds. And yeah, you can, because now everything is out here. Everything, you can buy everything. That you can buy a real nice turbo, you can buy a really nice header, you can really buy anything that you want now. But it was all this development that we did back on those days, that now we have all this around us, that you know, nowadays all the kids can enjoy and have and put their toys together. And as my shop is like, this is a dream for me, to be here every day and be able to build cars like this. And you know, sometimes I get challenged a lot, and you know what I can do, and honestly, you know, because all the effort we put back in the time of us building around us, anything that we wanted, we had to build it. Now we couldn't go buy it. For us nowadays is like, you know, we want to build the ultimate car for us. Honestly, I think we can. Like these cars. This is kind of like my dream car here. One day I said, I wanna build me a car, but I don't want a new car. I want an old car that can be efficient, that has power, that can be fun, that can have a nice engine, and that's how this car got built. This is my Datsun 510 that I built a couple of years back, and these got built into like, it's got a Honda S2000 engine in it, because that's one of the best engines ever built by Honda. And Honda put a lot of development that now this engine out of the box makes 240 horsepower. So you can imagine this car, when you drive it, how nice it could feel when the engine on this car, I think only made like 65, 70 horsepower, maybe, if that. And now you have an engine that is very reliable and is very smooth, and it can rev to 9,000 RPMs, and it makes 240 horsepower. And you can imagine that car, having that engine in that car now, which that's what it has. So, and also building race cars, we can do engines now that can produce with a turbocharger over 1,000 horsepower on a 4-cylinder. So you can imagine that. And and that's how my life is here in the shop. Every day I can do anything and everything, and it's a lot of fun because I do a lot of tuning on cars now. And I also do a lot of fabrication and a lot of building cars for people. Like we got the we got a surprise one day that we have this great guy Sun Kang came to us one day, and he's like, "You think you can build me a car? I heard you can build good cars, and you are like an old school guy that like Datsuns." I'm like, "Yeah, I think we can." And I at the time, it was just it was flattering that somebody like him will come and look for us this way. And so we that was back into the time where we had the pandemic going on. So he was interested in building the car, and I said, "Yeah, I'll take the challenge." I never built a car for somebody like you, but I think I can take the challenge, and I did, and I think the car came out really nice, and we did it. It was fun because it was a journey where we met a lot of people at the same time, and I got to introduce him a lot of the people from the industry that did a lot of things like everything. So he got to meet a lot of great people, and we got to meet a lot of nice people, and it was fun to build a car with him because it was like a meeting every week at my shop. Was like all these people coming in here and watching how we build this car. So it was really nice because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and he saw the whole process of how his car, when he bought it, how it was, and we stripped it all and got all in pieces, 100%, no bolts in the car, and we did the body, we did the paint, and we did the engine, and he saw how the engine was built, and how we make power out of that engine, or the components, how comparing from stock to what we did later, and putting different parts into his car, into his engine, and making his body and making his dream come true, because it's like a dream car for him. So we gotta read his mind and what is that he wants. So he's like, "I want a car that is nice, and I want it to I don't want a show car. I want a car that I can drive around, and that can be fast, and that can have nice brakes. And so okay. So we did that, all that for him, and at the end I think we built him a car that he really got surprised when he drove the car. And his first trip, that we did, and he was saying, you think he'll make it? And we went all the way up to Vegas, and I said, just to break in the engine, and went all the way there and back. And he was so happy because he still thinks it's an old car, but basically it's a brand new car now, and everything is it's pretty much perfect. So car went and came back, and great car, and he's so happy. And that's one of my biggest achievements too, that I think that that building that car for him was very challenging, and making him happy and making his dream car, it was very nice and very fulfilling for me. And we took the car once to the SEMA show, and surprisingly, a lot of the people looked at the car and they were amazed on the build. And we actually got the best import. We got an award for best import car in the SEMA show. So for us, it's one of the biggest achievements in my life, to be able to do that. And from there, here, still, I come to work at my shop, and I get to do a lot of things different, which is, it's my life. I do a lot of welding. I do a lot of, modification on the cars, a lot of building, a lot of engines, you name it, tuning, everything that you can think, in an import car, we pretty much can do it. It's just a matter of, well, what is that you want us to do? we pretty much, because we come from an era where we had to build anything that we wanted. Now we hear now for the people, what is that you want us to build you now? So, right? And that's how my shop is now here. It's a shop where, I feel like we can make dreams come true now. So, and that's how, pretty much how like my life is here, and in this world now. And we're still here, and we're still building cars. We still, I have my own race car, and now I'm trying to, I already run in the 9s, I already run in the 8s. So now I have a new achievement that I wanna do, is to run a 7-second pass in my race car, which is, I'm very close to do that again. So pretty soon you guys will see that. And we're still active, and we're still racing, and that's what we do. We do racing.